The entire plot of Battleworld can be summed up in 3 sentences, and those are 2 of them.
Open your mouth, prepare your tongue, because you're about to get a taste.
I cannot believe we've gone 12 episodes without me being able to talk about Final Fantasy.
Well, I know the doll is bad, so I gotta think the Dusty Balloon is less bad.
I mean, if all life everywhere ends, what have I lost?
Facial hair as a theme is not something I ever would have chosen.
So yeah, that's the one that Rock is just sweaty the whole time.
He's got that good pointy Jafar beard.
I've got 3 pages of AMA citations.
This is the Debate This podcast.
Welcome to Debate This, the show where a bunch of grown men make a big deal out of the things that don't matter, like comics, video games, and the intricacies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the storylines that they are building up to. Hey, speaking of the MCU and speculating about future storylines, as we...
Good segue, Todd.
Yeah, you like
as
that?
Todd throws his hands up for a reaction.
It's like it wasn't written down at all.
I alley-ooped to myself. As we careen towards Marvel's Phase 4, there's a lot of speculation over what the next major storyline will be. What will be the thing that, builds up over 10 years. And so today, I'll be giving you a steaming hot injection of lore about Marvel's Secret Wars storyline.
I feel
And
dirty.
This steaming hot injection of lore is my hot take as to what will easily be a sense of inspiration sometime within the next decade of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm calling the shot a decade out that this will be what they'll build to for like the Infinity Saga.
The next big arc, you mean?
Yes.
So, 2029, 10 years from Endgame, the Secret Wars culmination movie will come out.
Yep.
And some other old filmmaker will feel the need to slam the MCU for ruining movies at that point too.
Yeah, there you go. At that point, they're planning the future 30 years, and cyborg Kevin Feige is our overlord.
Yes, brain in a jar, Kevin Feige.
Yeah. So we here at Debate This are pretty familiar with Marvel, or at least the cinematic universe attached to it. So to help me out today by adding thoughts and asking questions are Matt. How many Ghost Riders are on the Battleworld? Cole.
That's the next episode we're recording.
Kyle, did the Council of Reeds save the day? Harper. And Andrew, what do you mean there are multiple Thors? Henderson.
I've heard Andrew say that.
Wait. Okay, I have so many questions.
No, not now.
One. I have a comment that Kyle's name was the most fitting. Also, are there actually more than one Thor?
Okay, so to answer the questions that I posed in order, they are a lot of Ghost Riders on Battleworld. Yes/no, the Council of Reeds saved the day. And to answer
usually the answer to that question.
To answer you, Andrew, yes, they're all here. At least those are the answers for the 2015 Secret Wars, that iteration.
Can we go back to FNAF, please?
No, never.
No.
So, my dudes, Marvel has planted some seeds for future stories, so let me spill them all over you. We're here to talk about the Secret Wars. I was waiting for it. We're here to talk about the Secret Wars today. So, open question. Tell me, what do you know about the Secret Wars storyline?
I mean, not much. They're a secret.
Damn it, you stole my
Shut up,
joke.
That's the whole episode right there. Is there any level of familiarity with the Secret Wars story?
There is a battle planet.
Yeah.
And there's a guy who makes all of the people go on the battle planet, and they have to battle on the planet.
So would you say that there's a battle world, Andrew, and that there's a guy who comes from...
He very clearly said planet, Todd.
I said planet, but yes.
And that there's a guy who comes from beyond to make them battle on this world?
Yeah, you're setting up for a joke that I don't get, so just move on.
That's how Matt and Kyle felt during the entire Witcher episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
What about you two?
Go ahead, Kyle.
So I'm a little more familiar with the 2015 one, as it mostly existed to kind of fold the Ultimate Universe into the main comics universe, and then also sell a lot of comics and toys at the same time. I kind of came into comics on the Ultimate comic storyline, so to know that they did make an effort to save the very best parts of that universe is a thing I know, and that's how I'm familiar with it. And then I'm tangentially aware of all the Battle Planet episodes of my favorite Saturday morning cartoons
Yep.
are spun off of the 1984 Secret Wars. But that's about it. That's all I know.
Yeah, I would put myself at like, I don't know, maybe a 5 out of 10. Like, I know some
Okay.
overarching things about the Secret Wars, and then I think I've said before on the podcast that the main way I've consumed comic content over the years has been finding bits of information about characters that I like and then reading everything I can on Wikipedias and stuff. And because Secret Wars inherently involves literally everybody, I have gotten my favorite characters' involvement in Secret Wars, but never the whole story of Secret Wars. So I know, like, sort of the overarching storyline, and then how, like, Ghost Rider and Thor and some of my favorites fit into everything, but definitely not as much as you're about to hot and steamily inject into my brain, which I don't ever want to hear you say again.
Bonus points for saying steamily. I appreciate that. So so there's a couple things. So first, we're going to talk about the origin of the Secret Wars, which Kyle kind of alluded to, because there was the original run of the Secret Wars in 1984. My first experience with this was kind of like Kyle had said. There were 2 or 3 Spider-Man episodes that were the Secret Wars, because like I think that they all did it, which was funny because you could tell like the animation for Captain America suddenly in a Spider-Man episode was just not the same as what it should have been anywhere else. It was just very like, I remember back then being like, well, that version of Wolverine doesn't look like the Wolverine that I see in my X-Men cartoon. So that's interesting.
Did X-Men do it too? Did X-Men do a Secret War?
I don't know if there was ever like they did their own thing as so much as they all just ended up in, at least for me, I only ever saw it through Spider-Man. So I don't know, and there wasn't like a Captain America cartoon. So I don't know if like X-Men did a thing. X-Men did so many different weird stories back then, you never knew.
They did, yeah.
So the whole concept and what it's kind of agreed upon the start to the 84 Secret Wars were that they wanted to sell more toys. Like, that's the thing. That you know, the big brains that wanted to make money were like, we want to tell a story where you just take the biggest names in Marvel and make them fight so that we can just cram everyone together. And then you have to make us new heroes to sell. You have to give us new settings to sell. And you can just ham fist everyone into the same like photo frame. And kids are going to eat that shit up.
I'm guessing this came off of the same, there was a big deregulation on children's media at the time that did spawn Transformers, He-Man, G.I. Joe. And I'm guessing this came out of that as well, because the like 1984 is about the time all of those, like, we don't care how good it is. This is a half an hour ad to sell Transformer action figures.
Yeah.
And like, that's when that started. So I'm guessing it all came out of that same deregulation period.
You are probably right, because there was a time when it was very specific about what could or could not be done in comic books. Like, the bad guys could never, ever, ever, ever win or have an upper hand, or like heroes couldn't use guns. There were just a lot of weird rules. And so this probably would have been right about that time that those things were getting relaxed.
Right, because Secret Wars was 1984, and then over on the DC side, Crisis on Infinite Earths was like 85. So it was everybody trying to get their merch money all in a 3-year time span.
So here we are. So kind of the setup is that out of nowhere, the biggest names in Marvel are just recruited by this cosmic entity called the Beyonder. And the way he recruits them, they were real original. And the way that he recruits them is he literally just teleports full chunks of their world and like puts them together piecemeal to make this place called Battleworld. This is like, the entire plot of Battleworld can be summed up in 3 sentences, and those are 2 of them. The third one, the third one is that he literally appears in front of these like huge names and says that if you defeat your enemies, I will give you whatever you want. All right, so that's the plot.
Tight.
So yeah, and I
All right.
even
Then they spent 2 years battling each other.
yeah.
Is it a secret? Like, why is it a secret war?
Because like they're just taken out of their own realities and brought here. Like it's a war that's being happened that no one's watching. I guess.
Couldn't they just
I don't know.
call it Marvel Battle Planet? That would have
I
been
don't
rad.
know. I don't know. Well, it's Battle World. I'm gonna correct you as many times as it takes to get it right.
I just like the whole plot line of this comic book arc is the exact same amount of plot of like a couch multiplayer co-op game. Of
Yeah.
everybody's here, fight each other, and you'll win, and that's it.
Yeah.
Hey, there is a deep lore to Super Smash Bros. Okay.
There's a hand that controls
Yeah.
them. And to really drive the point home, at one point the Beyonder even says, "I am from beyond." Like it's just like
Ugh.
yeah, it's the whole he said the title of the movie thing.
Once again, the 80s, where we need content, not quality.
Yeah. So to let you know what the rosters were, so for the good guys side, like where all the good guys appeared, you had the members of the current Avengers team, which was Captain America, Hawkeye, Iron Man, but unbeknownst to everyone, it was Rhodey playing Iron Man at the time. I don't know what the exact reason was. It's the 80s. Who knows?
Got it.
But it was Rhodey, and that was important because it was like a reveal later.
It was Secret Wars interrupted an arc of the Iron Man comics.
Yes.
And,
they yelled down.
and they had to deal with it.
They yelled down the hallway. We're doing this next month, and they're like, "Oh, what?" Like,
We don't even have Tony Stark right now.
yeah. You also had Thor. You had the Wasp. You had She-Hulk, and you had Monica Rambeau, who was the current Captain Marvel at the time. Which is also really neat because Monica Rambeau was the first Black female Avenger, and she even ended up being the leader of the Avengers at one point. I also have a note that like that's important later, and I made that note so I remembered it, and now I've remembered it. Also,
Good job, Todd.
yeah, that's for me. That's not for you.
This one's for Daddy.
This one's for Daddy. So other members that were there, Mr. Fantastic, Human Torch, and The Thing. I'm not sure why Sue Storm wasn't there, but she's very pivotal in...
Once again, probably because this interrupted a plot
Yeah.
in the comics where she wasn't there. And they were like,
I'm very willing to hand wave things like that because it probably happened that way. So that's, 3 out of the 4 Fantastic Four people. For the mutants, we had Colossus, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Professor X, Rogue, Storm, Wolverine, and a purple dragon named Lockheed, who was a pet to Kitty Pryde.
that is a consistent thing in the comics and isn't really ever explained. But
It's like they did a Twitter poll and was like, "Who are your favorite X-Men?" And one of the write-ins was Lol's Lockheed.
Yeah.
all I know is when Joss Whedon took over and wrote like a year's worth of X-Men comics, Lockheed is still there, and that was in 2004, 2003.
Shit.
So
Well, in
Yeah.
the one part that Lockheed played, I'll start this. There's a lot of stuff that happens in Secret Wars. There's a lot that happens in the 2015 one, and I don't get into all the supporting comic stories, or at least the nittiest of the gritty in the 84 run. But one thing that does happen is Colossus at this point has a relationship with Kitty Pryde, and I think he like almost loses Lockheed at one point, and he's worried about his relationship with Kitty Pryde because he's lost her pet dragon. Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
and that was probably a whole issue of one
Yeah.
of one comic.
Can you
that
imagine,
readers
like,
had to deal with?
You get, as a kid, you get like one comic a month or one comic every other month. And your comic this month is fucking like this weird romantic comedy with Colossus and Kitty Pryde.
oops, all Lockheeds.
Yeah.
Before we get too far away from it, I do want to point out Monica Rambeau is the little girl in the Captain Marvel movie.
Yes.
You took my bullet point at the end of the
Oh,
podcast.
cool.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, Kyle.
Oh,
Kyle, that was such an
sorry.
awesome thing that you shared and you alone. That's so neat.
Way to go, spoiler owl.
Yeah. It's fine. There are going to be a number of things that like I talk about and I say that's important later, or I just hit them at the end. So that's good. I'm glad you picked up on that because that's one of the cornerstones to why I think that this will be a future like property.
I'm going to take the wind out of your sails the rest of this episode.
Oh, you try. There's a lot. Again, rest of the heroes, we have Spider-Man. We get introduced to Spider-Woman, who at this point is Julia Carpenter, who I believe ends up being the second Spider-Woman. The Incredible Hulk is there because like you need the Hulk. And then for the good guys side, Magneto is there on the good guys side. Now it's I don't know if it ever like just like blatantly gets explained, but the explanation is that when the Beyonder divided up people good and bad, that Magneto isn't quote evil. He's there to like his purpose is always to do what's best for mutants and whatever his tainted, vision of what's best is. And so the argument is he's not out to like destroy things, he's just out to protect his people. So he ends up playing like middleman, like in the gray, whatever throughout.
He's chaotic neutral.
Yeah.
I was gonna say lawful evil, but okay.
I don't know. It's hard somewhere. Who knows? And those are two opposite things, but whatever. He's unaligned lawful of something.
He plays a different role here than he does on Earth. Too,
yes,
I think is important to point out.
The last thing that I'll put into this because I think it's funny. So again, in the 2015 run, when we talk about it, there's a lot of other comics that existed during that 9 to 12 months that run happened. One of the fun supporting stories was 2015's Deadpool's Secret War. and in that, they basically retcon all of the 84 Secret War to say that Deadpool was there the whole time.
Okay, that's really good.
And it ends with the Wasp apparently has the ability to wipe people's minds so that she ends up wiping everyone's mind to forget that Deadpool was ever there.
Good.
Which, like, that's pretty funny. Like, I get a kick out of that. So that is on, like, the good guys' side where the Beyonder drops them off. On the bad guys' side, we have Absorbing Man, Doctor Doom, Doc Octopus, the Enchantress, Kang the Conqueror, Claw, the Lizard, Molecule Man, and Ultron.
I'm sorry. Who is Absorbing Man?
He's in the Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, I think. He just can absorb. He absorbs material, and like that's what his like. He can absorb concrete, and now he hits as hard as concrete. He absorbs water, and he becomes water. It's I don't know if that's the one that you stuck on that was the weirdest thing to happen here. Then okay.
Yeah.
What's Molecule Man do?
Yes. So I'm glad you
He's
said that.
the other one I'm relatively unfamiliar
He's a They
with.
Might Be Giants song.
Yes, it's Particle Man. But close. So Molecule Man, his power.
Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
So his power is just he can control and alter molecules. Like think big brain how much that would matter. Like you can change anything, alter anything into anything. Now, the note is that he isn't even so much like a bad guy anymore when this story comes up because he's been like seeking counseling to learn control. Like he doesn't want to be a bad guy.
Gotcha.
And he is by far, and this is stupid, he is probably one of the most important characters of these entire runs.
You're right,
yeah.
that is stupid.
Yeah. I wouldn't say he's the most important, but he's easily like top 5. Also, Galactus shows up at one point. He's there. It's fine. Like, the Beyonder has the control to bring Galactus in, so that's cool. The last bit about, like, the bad guys, there end up being 2 more additions. They are named Titania and Volcano. They are 2 people that they find on Battleworld, and Doctor Doom experiments on them and gives them powers. And the big point that I have here is that Doctor Doom calls the shots around here. Like, when they show up, he's like, hey, assholes. Like, you're not, whatever you think you're doing, you're not doing it. Because, like, the very first thing that happens is that Ultron, like, pops off and is like, I don't trust anything of what's going on here. This doesn't compute. And Doom's like, nah, get back in line. Like, all of you listen to me. Nothing else happens here. So, I guess there are a number of things that happen. And so in the end, like they just battle. Like the good guys and the bad guys battle. Obviously, that's what happens. It's pretty one-dimensional.
Who fights who? Who wins? Who loses?
Well, I
need a scorecard, Todd.
I'll get to that. But there were actually some things that did result of the Battleworld run that did really matter. And so probably the biggest one that happened is this is what ended up explaining where Spider-Man got the symbiote.
Oh, okay. That's important and cool.
Yeah. And so for it being so important and cool, so okay, back to what Kyle said, this whole thing of like, all these characters were snatched out of their own stories and brought to this. You now, if you were just like reading the Spider-Man run, but not Battleworld, ultimately you picked up an episode one day and he has a black suit on.
Oh,
and
that's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
is
you're like,
weird.
I guess I need to go read Battle World because what the
Oh,
hell?
this whole thing reeks of why everyone hates comics because of that. Because they're like, what? The whole story happened in another comic line that I have to like go and read to know what's happening. Too bad I spent all my allowance and can't. So I
Yeah.
guess
Well,
I just have to accept it.
and it
that
gets
Spider-Man
and
has
it
a
gets
black
even
suit now.
worse. So the way he gets it, at one point, I think they all get like new costumes while they're on the planet because reasons,
toys.
because they needed to sell new toys,
Yeah.
and so he literally like picks up a small black ball and it covers him in the symbiote. Like that's it.
Cool.
And he's like super not concerned about it at the time. He's like, "Oh, cool. I also have a new outfit. All right."
Wow.
Back to punching bad guys.
Yeah, and like another result of this was that suddenly She-Hulk had replaced the Thing in Fantastic Four at the end of this run. And so again, if you were reading the Fantastic Four and then like didn't read Battle World, however many, issues this run was, suddenly Ben Grimm is gone and you've got She-Hulk. A different large punching person.
Better go get the coloring book and figure out the numerology so you can get the identity of Golden Freddy after all this bullshit.
Another really big thing that happens is this was one of the, not the first time, but one of the big times that like the Hulk got super angry and did really big Hulk things. He literally held a mountain up from crushing everyone.
Nice.
And the way he did it is I think it was Iron Man in this kept insulting him, like making fun of him to make him madder and stronger.
That's pretty great.
So I don't know. It's one of those very early, like this is a tease of what World Breaker Hulk would ultimately become. However, World Breaker Hulk down towards the end is, in the 2000s is just way, way, way more powerful.
Yeah.
I definitely remember that the like Hulk holding up a mountain being cited in the big Marvel character encyclopedia I read. That was like as an example of how strong the Hulk even got so mad he held up an entire mountain. Like, so that's pretty.
And in the
Pretty
80s,
fun.
he got that mad by being made fun of. Like that was the like so one-dimensional.
Bullying is real, Todd. Words hurt.
So to get to the actual story, because those are some of like the big highlights at least. There are fights between the good guys and the bad guys. That happens. Magneto kind of plays in the middle, doing his own thing. But again, Doctor Doom is the badass that calls the shots. Like he is the guy saying what's going on. And like to drive that point home, at one point to like power himself up because Galactus is there and he's like, I want to eat this planet, but I can't eat this planet yet because I'm unable to because of plot. So instead,
the whole planet having a plot shield is like my favorite thing. That's
well,
awesome.
the best part is instead he eats his own ship because Galactus has a ship that he rides around on. Okay.
Sure.
So he does so, and then when that happens, Doom actually ends up taking that power from Galactus using some alien device because they're on an alien planet and they have alien technology, and that explains everything. And
Sure.
when that happens,
Hand wave.
Doom then uses the power of Galactus to destroy the Beyonder. That's
Okay.
how
Whoa.
that's I just summarized a lot of the story for you.
Okay then.
And there's actually a really, really good moment where he has all this power because he destroys the Beyonder and like he ends up taking the Beyonder's power. Or maybe he doesn't get the power from this. Maybe that's later. But he basically, with all this new power he has, at one point he takes his mask off and all his weird scars are gone. And he's just like a Ken doll. He's just gorgeous. He's gorgeous Squidward. That's what he is in that moment. But anyway, now Doctor Doom is this like crazy powerful thing because he's powered up with Galactus's power at least. And he no longer needs to rest. He just like sits there. He doesn't need to sleep. He doesn't need to do any of those things. He has so much power that at one point he detonates a chunk of the battle world and he kills all the heroes. Just kills them. He kills them. They're just they've just blown up.
Okay.
So, because he's so full of this power that he's drawn from Galactus, because Galactus ate his spaceship. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
So, all this while, so Beyonder, who is this like powerful cosmic entity, which, if we want to like speculate, I don't know if they ever actually talk about what his like title is, if he would end up being, a celestial or whatever the ranking would be in the current Marvel universe. He's not dead. He was destroyed, but he's not dead. His soul is flying around. Just like whimsically like flying around.
Sure.
Um,
Okay.
to the point that he ultimately ends up possessing Claw, which would be Ulysses Claw, as we know, which is
Who
the
got
what's his
murked in
face?
the
Yeah,
Black Panther
straight
movie
murk.
in like 45 minutes.
Ulysses Claw.
Yeah, so he is made out of
That's
a being
Andy
made
Serkis's character in the MCU. If that
Oh,
helps,
thank
Andrew.
you. It does help. Thank you.
in the MCU. He has a hand cannon. In the Marvel universe, he's made out of pure sound. So close. Okay, so
6 of one, half dozen of the other.
so this gets real weird, right? So not that it's not already weird. The Beyonder ends up, he possesses Claw, and so at that moment, Claw starts like seeding or sowing the seeds of like, distrust into Doom, by like telling him like, oh well, there are still people around on this planet that could probably bring the heroes all back together if you're not careful. Like, did you really get rid of them all? I bet they can come back. And so Doom begins to realize that he can't control this power that he's drawn upon, and he ends up bringing all the heroes back. Like, that's just what happens.
Like purposefully?
No, like he is unable to control all the power that he has siphoned off from Galactus.
Okay.
So he
That's-
he does that thing where you're like, don't think of an elephant, and he thinks of
Yeah.
he thinks of the heroes, and they're like,
Yeah.
and they're back, and he's like, damn it.
Yeah, it is exactly that. Like that basically, the Beyonder controlling Claw is like, oh man, those heroes could come back at any time. Oh, I guess those heroes could come back at any time. The heroes come back, and so there's actually this like, there's
The
this
power inside him all along.
yeah. Well, there's this dramatic moment where he's fighting Captain America, and he keeps destroying him and then rebuilding him right in front of himself again. Like, it happens multiple times.
That's so cool and dumb.
Yeah, and it's all because like he can't control all this power that he's siphoned off from like Galactus' ship and this Beyonder influence that's going on. And so anyway, the last battle ends with the Beyonder getting his powers back, because comics are sometimes like Simpsons episodes in that
Everything
nothing
needs
actually,
to reset at the end of the half hour.
yeah, and then nothing actually happens. And so in the end, that's basically what happens. Like when the Beyonder was like, "Hey, come here and defeat your enemies, and you'll get everything you've ever wanted." That's because there are like wish granting properties of the battle world, and so heroes and villains, they figure out they can like use the battle world's powers, and they basically just like leave because they can grant wishes, and they just leave.
Got it.
Cool.
Yeah. And so there's also, I guess, the couple things that do happen. So the Thing ends up staying behind because he wants to help like explore the universe or whatever. I don't know, plot, who knows? Like, again, they needed a thing to change in Fantastic Four to make people buy the Secret War run. But there's also a Secret Wars 2 where the Beyonder comes to Earth, but everything that I was reviewing basically agreed that was bad. And so I did not.
It's better if we ignore that.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
So that is the 84 run of Secret Wars, right? So to just put it into like condensed bullet points of
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
heroes got transported to this world that was made up of fragments of their own reality. They fought, and then they left. And in the process, we learned a little bit about ourselves.
What happens in Battle World stays in Battle World.
I don't know if it's the way you wrote it out or if it's just that obvious, but like there are so many decisions in here that I can just see the writers just going like, what if Spider-Man had a black suit? Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Like, just like doing lines and yelling out the first thing that comes to mind.
Well,
like,
and it's so funny now because like obviously that led to Venom, and like Venom
Yeah.
is one of the like favorites of
Yeah.
the Marvel universe, that he's become this like villain to anti-hero to spin off to like a real hero to all this other stuff, all because they were like black suit, we'll figure it
So
out later,
crazy.
black suit.
I mean, and just the symbiote alone, like that is probably the most now like important plot point in Spider-Man.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's even at this point, like we're not going to get into this rabbit hole right now, but like it's one of those things where it's had so much success that they stopped really building. Well, they've still built forward, but they started like reverse engineering. Like
Yeah.
they've retconned the beginning of the symbiote to be a whole thing,
Yeah.
to like to the point that now there's speculation that if they wanted to ultimately merge, the Venom Spider-Man universe in with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that the current like bad guy in the Venom run could be linked to Thor because Thor has fought him before. Like, it's a whole thing. His name is Gore the God Butcher, and like it's a whole
we
whole
talked
thing.
about him once. The last time you talked about Marvel, we talked about Gore the God Butcher.
The Eternals episode for
Yeah.
our listeners at home. That was the last time we let Todd ramble unchecked about Marvel.
The point being that we could spend, another full like flavor text here just talking about the symbiote, that thing that literally Spider-Man just picked up a black orb and was like, "Hey, cool new suit, got it." Like,
Wow.
So, listeners, be on the lookout for Todd's 2-hour in-depth dive into the lore of Venom and the symbiote coming out sometime in the future.
and what I really mean to say is that we have the 1984 Secret Wars run to thank for having Tobey Maguire jazzercise his way down the street. So, there's that.
Thanks, cocaine.
Okay, so that is where we leave the 84 run. And so that ultimately brings us to the 2015 Secret Wars run. Now, there are kind of two different parts. So first off, there's a shit ton of parts. There's all these tie-ins, and we're not talking about the tie-ins. If you've got a favorite superhero or villain, they probably had their own story that was running around. And so we are just going to talk about the main continuity of the story. And that is kind of separated into two things.
And probably similar to the original Secret Wars, they didn't get much notice.
No.
They had their own plot worked out for a year ahead of time, and then Kevin Feige was like, "Hey, we're doing this, and you have to do it." And everyone were like, "Well, shit."
So the only thing I would say otherwise is that they did have, this had a pretty good like build up. So the build up to the actual battle world. So we're going to talk about Time Runs Out and Battle World. And so the build up to the actual reveal of Battle World went on for like a year. It was multiple episodes or multiple comics, and every comic that would come out would be like listed at the top. It would say like 1 month until the end. Like it would be like 8 months till the end, 7 months till the end. Like they were doing it like month by month countdown. And I think they launched the episode or the issue 0, I think, came out on like Free Comic Book Day to like get people locked in.
Oh, that's
Oh
tight.
yeah.
That's a great call.
Yeah. And I mean, every year or two, most, either Marvel or DC will do a big comic run. And so this was the 2013 or the 2015 one. I think the 2013 one was Original Sin. Like they just keep doing these big stories where everyone drops everything and just does this for a while and then kind of goes back and everything changes. So I've put a picture in here, and this is really the only picture you're going to need to know about in Time Runs Out. This is every hero you've ever cared about fighting a mirror version of themselves, more or less.
Yes.
Huh.
And so this is because the big deal is that like Secret Wars ended up with universes colliding. And so in the 2-year build up to the Time Runs Out, or through this Time Runs Out storyline, a lot happens. There's a lot of tie-ins. We're not going to necessarily talk about them, but the overall gist of it is that the multiverse is collapsing. So all the different universes are all collapsing into one another in pairs. So 2 of them just colliding. And so what happens with that is that each universe, their Earth, would collide into the other Earth, and then both would be destroyed. The Earths, the universes, gone. And so they kept calling those were called incursions. And so furthermore, to make it even more dramatic, Earth was always at the center of every incursion because
Reasons.
yeah.
course.
Well,
Yeah.
and there actually ends up being a reason later, but at this point you're just like, all right,
Sure.
cool. To the point that, wouldn't you know it, the point where that incursion happens is an incursion point. So,
Creative.
anyway, yeah. So basically, when the incursions start, there's an 8-hour period where both Earths can coexist before they collide. So it's basically like this Earth shows up in the sky above you, and it's like, oh, we're the incursion point, I guess, right here.
You've got 8 hours to make your peace with God,
Yeah.
because your world's about to end.
And so
Cool.
after those 8 hours, both Earths will collide and it'll destroy both Earths and the universes. the trick is, and they find out that if one of the Earths is destroyed, the universes can still both exist, but only one of those Earths gets to still remain.
What a weird work day that would be.
Oh, guys, drop everything.
Like, what are you going to do for lunch that day?
And so I don't know if they ever like fully talk. So there are a couple times that they stop an incursion from happening, and I don't know if they fully talk about the actual ramifications of that, because like more incursions happen anyway. So like just because you saved yours doesn't mean another one's not going to come in. So it's like, cool, we're safe for 8 hours. Hopefully another one doesn't pop up next week. So anyway, as more universes get destroyed, that process goes even faster. Like it gets faster. And so rinse, repeat, that is what happens. This whole story of the 2015 Secret Wars starts when or at least I guess it's explained when this person known as the Black Swan appears in Wakanda. And Black Panther's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And she's like, "I'm going to destroy your world because my world needs to exist." And they're like, "Oh shit, that's a lot to drop on me on a Tuesday." And then
This is just the plot to Final Fantasy IX.
which you could be
Andrew
lying
is
and
so
we wouldn't know.
unimpressed right now.
Yeah, I've played this game. It's Final Fantasy IX. It's a pretty good game, but
Well,
alright.
the kicker here is that she accidentally ends up destroying her own world because
Oops.
yep. Because what a story would it be if it was like, and the 616 universe is destroyed, the end. So she is now
That would
stuck.
be an awesome story that Marvel would never tell. Because
I know this is stupid for you guys, but should we clarify 616 is
Oh,
the OG
yeah.
Marvel? Yes.
Yeah, so when you think about the Marvel storytelling, it's typically 616, Universe 616, which there's even been the tease in the most recent Spider-Man episode or movie that we could in fact be Earth 616. You know, I know at one point they had actually named the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a numbered Earth.
It's 1999-99.
There it is.
Yep.
Yep. So anyway, when you hear 616, that is the quote main Marvel comics continuity.
Okay.
And that's
is it worth
important.
saying what the other universes are, or are you getting there?
I'm gonna get to the only other one that's gonna really matter. But like other examples would be like the Marvel Zombies universe is one of them. The Marvel Ultimates universe is another one of them.
the Raimi Spider-Man movies exist in one.
Right.
The Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies exist in another.
The garbage one.
there is the I think it's oh man, what is the Marvel universe where they're all pets? That is also one.
God damn it.
There's like a Captain America or some shit like that.
Stop. That's
Oh,
gross.
the one Spider-Ham is from.
Spider-Ham. Yep,
Yeah.
that is it. 100% real thing.
Yep.
So anyway, forget all that though. We're talking about the 616 right now.
Sorry, before we move on from this aside, another aside, is Black Swan supposed to be analogous to Black Panther, or is it just like a
Ooh.
completely different character?
That's a good question, and I don't have that answer. So, and I'm also not going to look it up because Black Swan exists in
Got
most
it.
of this to be like a context driver of like, oh, I know about the incursions. This is what's happening.
She's an exposition
Yeah.
dump.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
since she ended up on this planet to destroy it to save her own, and like there's more backstory that we get to eventually, but that is kind of her drive.
I don't think she is designed to be
Yeah.
analogous.
I actually keep
Yeah.
seeing pictures of her with the Black Order, with like Call of
Yeah.
and such. So
Yeah, she's ultimately not a good person, but we don't really get there yet. So
Okay.
what happens is, so we now know the issue that is facing us is that incursions are happening and destroying Earths and universes. So who better to handle this than the Illuminati? That is the smartest, most well-equipped Marvel heroes, which at this point in time, I believe were made up of Black Panther, Reed Richards, Iron Man, Beast, Black Bolt, Doctor Strange, and Captain America. There
And
could
someday Alex Jones will put it into
Yeah.
their control.
and I guess Professor X may not be in there because Beast is there, so maybe Professor X is dead in this continuity. I don't know. But anyway, they are watching this situation now happen, and they're trying to solve the problem.
I think he is dead because I think this comes right after or Avengers versus X-Men, where he died.
There's also, I mean, part of the talk that leads to this is that they were starting to kind of like prune heroes out of stories, if you will,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they knew they were going to do a relaunch, and so
he's
they're
one
like,
of the founding Illuminati, but I would assume Beast took his place.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is. I mean, he might have been one of the people that was quote cut on the or left on the cutting room floor before the relaunch. So anyway, there are these smart people standing in this room, and Reed Richards says, "Hey, we're gonna fix everything by using the Infinity Gauntlet because that is my one trick pony that I'm gonna bring to the table. We're gonna do it." And so, since Captain America is the only like pure person in this room, he wields the Infinity Gauntlet and ends up pushing the other Earth away. And
What if
So-
we took this Earth and put it over here?
yeah, and so it's just like that Earth and that universe is just like not here right now or anymore. And so everyone's like, hooray, that's great. However, the gauntlet and all the gems except for the time stone are destroyed. So
Uh-oh.
yeah, and the time gem just disappears, which presumably means it like warped into a different place in time, because that seems like a very time gem thing to do. Yeah, so whoops, that's a problem. So they ultimately decide, from what the Black Swan has said,
A time heist?
a time heist. No, they decide what they're going to need to do is they're going to need to destroy the other Earth that is colliding into them. Mind you, these are like the smartest, most equipped, presumably the best of us in a room that are like, we're gonna have to destroy another Earth. And Captain America is like, I will absolutely not be part of this. By my stars and bars, I will not allow this to happen.
Lawful good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that point, Tony Stark says, well, I'm sorry, Cap, and Doctor Strange wipes his mind.
Oh damn!
Whoa!
Whoa!
Yeah. So, which kind of plays into the original Sin storyline. Again, I think it was 2013. It was where they all had like some sin from their past, and like, or at least in their life that they don't know about. So this would be from the future, but that could be part of it. Anyway, the Illuminati is like, we got to figure out a thing. We got to figure out something, some way to destroy competing worlds. And so they find some device they make up, and the Earth that is coming at them for the incursion, they go to it, they scan the Earth, it is barren. There's no life on the planet. And so that's an easy win. They blow it up. Like, they get to continue to exist.
Yeah.
So at this point, Reed Richards ends up working with the Black Swan to develop a thing called the Bridge, which lets them look at alternate realities. So like see into that Earth that is coming at them. Furthermore, this is around the time where Doctor Strange, he's like, I need to get myself so full of power. Like, he goes and tries to basically sell his soul to find power. Along the way, he ends up getting captured by a being named Rabum Alal, who we find out is the leader of the Black Swans. Black Swans being like a group of people.
Gotcha.
So things are going to get weird, because it turns out that Doctor Doom is secretly Rabum Alal, who's being worshipped by these Black Swans. And Doctor Doom is now on a mission to destroy all the other Earths to like save their own.
Is this 616 Doctor Doom? Is this some other alternate Doctor Doom?
I believe it is 616 Doctor Doom.
Does he still have Galactus power?
No, that was like 30 years ago. That's been retconned.
Which is an eternity in comic book time.
He took a shit and his powers went back to normal. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
But the point being, the Black Swans are actually beings that exist trying to destroy other worlds to save their own. And the long and short ends up being they cannot stop the incursions without straight up destroying every other Earth.
Oh. That poses a small problem.
Yeah, and so, and I mean, without going into the reasons why that won't work, it won't work. Like, one, universal genocide. Two, like, the resources required. So we end up in a situation where Marvel Continuity 616 is about to collide with the Ultimate Universe, which is Earth 1610. Those are probably like the two biggest universes that we know about. 1610 might be most well noted at this point in time for having Miles Morales in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not convinced that he wasn't part of the driving force behind this whole thing, because people loved Miles Morales so much but he was born out of a universe where Spider-Man died. Like, was dead.
So there's a whole lot of issues with the Ultimate Universe. The first of which being like that Spider-Man is dead. The second of which is it was created with what if we made the Avengers, but in a post 9/11 world, and also they're all the absolute worst. Like Captain America is like the racist old man from the 40s.
There you go.
Tony Stark is like kind of a coward and alcoholic in this one, and like just a whole bunch, like, you know, just kind of extrapolate their flaws all the way out.
They tried to be too gritty.
I was gonna say they started making a gritty universe, and they're like, "Ooh, what if we keep only some of these things?"
Yeah, and that's what it was. Is like, well, this, and this works. Let's keep those 5 things and scrap the rest of it.
I guess that makes sense. That was like the height of like Batman Begins was really popular, and
the Ultimate X-Men was the first in that series, and that was 2001 or 2.
Yeah,
and then
isn't that what the movies are based off of? Because that's the Leather Daddy X-Men, right?
That's so yeah. That was them trying to be like, okay,
don't look at me like that, Matt. You know what I'm talking about.
The Leather Daddy.
Oh, I knew what you were talking about. It was just like I had to process what you said and then realize that I also agreed with you.
Thanks.
Okay, so we've got these universes. So because I don't want to talk about Leather Daddy X-Men anymore. So since we've got these parallel,
too bad.
It's all Leather Daddy X-Men all the way down.
Well, that's all we'll be talking about on my new podcast, Leather Daddy X-Men.
Gross. So at this point, you know, the Ultimate Universe, they're getting ready for battle because they have also figured this out. And so the 616 universe has to deal with the Ultimate Universe, including a group called the Great Society, which is the parallel Illuminati, because we can't be original about anything. And they are led, or at least the Ultimates coming to 616 are led by Ultimate Nick Fury, who is like, we're not gonna be destroyed.
Ultimate Nick Fury is the first time Samuel L. Jackson was cast as Nick Fury, by the way. That was where that came from.
I got a timeout because I'm super gonna pee. I didn't pee before we started recording. So I really need a pee break, and I'm very sorry.
That's on you.
It is on me. I've got a good stop here. Sorry, everyone.
Hey guys, Andrew here. Remember that time I made that really salient point about a popular video game and everyone immediately changed their minds in my favor? Kyle, put a good clip of me right here. What a cherished memory we all shared. Well, I want to take this time to recommend one of my favorite indie games to have come out in the last couple years, and that's Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is an artfully crafted, tough-as-nails 2D Metroidvania. You play as a nameless knight exploring the massive bug kingdom of Hallownest. As you dive further into the depths of this dying civilization, you'll uncover more about the mysterious plague that has taken most of its inhabitants. The soundtrack, directed by Christopher Larkin, sets the scene of desolation well with its slow, methodical violin melodies and soft piano. Just to be clear, I am in no way being paid to deliver this message. I just really like this game, so much so that I actually bought it twice. If you enjoy narrative single-player experiences and exploring sprawling, imaginative landscapes, or if you simply just want a challenge, pick up a copy of Hollow Knight. You can find it on Steam or download it to your PS4, Xbox One, or Switch today.
All right, so we're back. I don't know if that clap
Thanks.
does anything. I don't
Leave that
understand.
clap in.
Good. Okay, so Ultimate Nick Fury is like leading this charge to take down 616 Earth because they too do not want to be all incurred. At this point in time, Namor from the 616 universe actually creates this like new cabal. So he takes members of the Black Order. So we're talking Thanos, Corpus Glaive, Proxima Midnight. He also takes Maximus the Mad, who I don't know if was part of the Black Order, but Maximus the Mad is Black Bolt's evil brother.
Sure.
He basically makes like this group of people, and he's like, no, we're gonna go destroy every last Earth that tries to incur with us. Like, we're not messing around. We're gonna go do it.
They're like, yeah, the shadow group that's like, we're not negotiating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
And like
here
Namor,
to
and
Yeah.
you know, Namor's been like a bad guy, an anti-hero, a good guy, whatever. But I think this is the time where he's like, and maybe he was part of the Illuminati at the time, but he was like, no, we've got the means. We're gonna take care of this. We'll do what needs to be done because no one else will.
Yeah, this is a great example of how Namor is an asshole.
Yeah. And furthermore, this group, this like Namor, Thanos, Corpus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, Maximus the Mad, they are consistently bad guys throughout like the rest of the story.
Okay.
So at this point, we now have Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange who work with Molecule Man to try and figure out what's going on, because again, Molecule Man is the power of friendship. So
He's the spackle that makes every convoluted idea work.
yes.
It's like, all right, and Molecule Man do a thing, and it works.
Well, so they end up finding out through plot that the Beyonders, which there are multiple Beyonders, they've been using the multiverse as like an experiment. And they're just kind of done with the experiment, and so they're going to just erase everything. Like that's it. That's it.
Okay.
I mean, it's not much sillier than the Beyonder brought people in their fragments of their world to a planet to fight for Saturday morning cartoons. Like, it's not that much difference.
Yeah.
Right.
So further, we find out that the Beyonders put like a version of Molecule Man on each universe to ultimately act as a time bomb to explode whenever they want it to happen. Like that was their initial plan. And then it turns out that the incursions are happening because Doctor Doom and Molecule Man are messing with everything. So it's like this like it's this Ouroboros like chicken and the egg situation where the Beyonders could just destroy all the Earths, but because Doctor Doom has figured out what's going on and is collecting all the Molecule Men from each universe, they're just encouraging, like they're just colliding.
Dr. Doom is collecting Molecule Men. What a weird sentence.
I'm going to paraphrase something Andrew said a minute ago, and this is very cool. And if you look a little bit behind the curtain, it's very stupid.
Well, and so he is collecting all those different Molecule Men, and he uses all of them to like overpower and destroy the Beyonders. And so, I think I get back to how. Okay, I explain how that happens in a second, but I'll come back to that. So
I have a question.
yeah,
I have a
you
lot
with
of
the
questions,
hand.
but
Yeah, you
I
get
have my
one,
hand
choose
up.
it.
Okay, so the Beyonders, I'm trying to literally and metaphorically peel back the layers of this onion, right? Because like we've got all these different universes, and one would imagine or one would theorize that like you are kind of stuck to your own universe.
Yeah, more or less.
So if Beyonders are so what's the word? Extra planar, like they're on another plane of existence, like where they can see all of the like they have physical control of different universes. How does Doctor Doom even interact with them? It's like building a ladder to get to heaven. Like those are just those.
So to extrapolate on the stupidity of it,
Yeah.
I would guess that the in-universe explanation is that because Molecule Man is made from, like, specifically planted by the Beyonders, there is some interaction where you can, like, reverse engineer Molecule Man to then hurt the Beyonders.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So
Probably.
That's good enough.
knowing how this story goes, I did not get crazy in the weeds over the like why Doctor Doom can like interact with the Beyonders and how he found them. I just know that like we find this whole situation of like, I thought, you know, who's on first? I'm on second, like of the Beyonders planted Molecule men because they can destroy the multiverses that way.
Okay. Just
but
accept
also
it is what you're
it's
saying.
fallen apart because Doctor Doom collected the Molecule Men, but now they found that plan out.
This is also not the first example of Doctor Doom successfully punching out of his weight class
Oh,
in
yeah.
the
Yeah.
comics.
Yeah.
He does that quite frequently.
Yeah, I want to
Okay.
take one more quick aside. Sorry to cut you off again, Todd.
You're good. You're good.
No, like I wish that the 2000s X-Men movies had not made Doctor Doom such a freaking wang. Because, like, in the comics, Doctor Doom is incredible. Top-tier villain, super powerful. Like you said, Kyle, like, consistently punching out of his weight class and connecting like Little Mac and Punch-Out. But, like, in the movies, he was such a dweeb that they took out in, like, 15 minutes.
Well, in the Fantastic Four movies, they made him this, like, I don't know, they took the guy from Nip Tuck and they made him Doctor Doom. And like Nip Tuck was just the softcore porn I watched in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and I don't need that with my get that out of here. So
the guy from Nip Tuck and the guy from The Shield were in the Fantastic Four movies.
What a weird
if you want to date those movies.
So we've got this incursion, 616 and 1610. The Ultimate Universe and like the main Marvel continuity are colliding. So what happens is Reed Richards is able to create a life pod, and he's going to escape from the 616 universe, and they kind of like draft a team to escape with them. And they basically say, who do we need? Who is important? Who do we want to protect? And there's actually a conversation where they decide that like Tony is not worthy of going because of like, you know, his deception of Captain America. Captain America ends up not getting on the pod as well. But the team that does make it onto the life pod are Peter Parker's Spider-Man.
Of course.
Yeah. Star-Lord, Cyclops, who had recently taken control of the Phoenix Force.
Oh boy.
Because we got to save the Phoenix Force.
Yeah.
That was the X-Men versus Avengers storyline.
So there you
which was very good. It was a very good storyline.
And this is 2015, so Guardians would have just come out, right? So that's why Star-Lord was there.
Yep.
Yeah. Captain Marvel is on there. Black Panther is there. Jane Foster's Thor, which I would refer to as the Mighty Thor, is on there. Reed Richards is also there, along with the Fantastic Four and Reed and Sue's kids, because they have, I think, 2 kids. So partway through this, like escaping the incursion, Johnny Storm, the Thing, Sue Storm, and their kids are like separated from the life pod and just disintegrated.
Oh, bummer.
Just like
Oh.
Do you know why?
I know what happens. I mean,
No, it's because that's when when Fan Four Stick came out, the awful.
Oh, sure.
And Marvel was just like, we're not making Fantastic Four comics anymore because you ruined that brand with this movie.
Holy shit.
We're not doing it anymore.
Wow.
So 100%.
Good.
So you will actually see some of that. Actually, a lot of that play out here. You'll see a lot of that play out here. But anyway, they are cut out, disintegrated, gone. So, and then at the same point in time, we find out that the Reed Richards from the 1610 universe, who is called the Maker, he builds a life pod, and him and Namor's like team of baddies, they survive the incursion.
The Maker was another big reason they want another like one they super duper wanted to save from the Ultimates universe, because it's Reed Richards who like used his shape shifting powers to like super add folds to his brain or whatever to increase his mental capacity, so much so that he became a twisted like eldritch goopy monstrosity of a villain in that universe.
That's not how
like,
science works.
I mean, like, you know.
Wait, clarifying question. So the Maker is from 1610, and he made the life pod, which saved the Cabal, but the Cabal is from 616.
Yes.
Got it.
So
Okay.
we need the bad guys from 616, but we need a way to get them there. And so we need the Maker, which is, you know, bad Reed Richards from 1610.
Got it. Okay.
You can more or less just kind of forget about everything 1610 for the most part.
Cool.
So what we end up with, go ahead.
I was gonna say, quick aside, the Maker is what is also responsible for the Marvel Zombies universe.
Oh,
Like,
shoot.
when they get into their universe hopping, he's the one behind
He
that
looks
as
like
well.
an incel.
Yeah.
He is something.
Yeah.
It's like RoboCop in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
The bottom line of this is that all these universes collide, and Doom, because Doom is just like straight OP, he manages to take all of the remnants of all these like various Earths, and he builds a patchwork world. Doom does this. And he did this by he went to the Beyonders with Doctor Strange, and he took their powers using Molecule Man. So, like, there's kind of a theme here. Like this is kind of what happened before. Like Doctor Doom took powers, did whatever he
From
wants
the
to.
Beyonder.
Yeah.
Nice.
I
see you, Marvel.
And like in this moment too, Strange just has to go with it because like Doom is even just more OP. Like I think Strange realizes like, all right, there's not a thing I can do.
Wow.
I'm just gonna roll with this. And I guess I just play it out because the alternative is you just straight up destroy me. So that now leads us to Battleworld, which I put in the doc. A funny looking map. It is just like it's like you guessed at how to color the different countries on one of those flattened globes, and you weren't right. It is so okay. So what is Battleworld? So Battleworld is what I would call the clip show of Marvel highlights and cool shit. They basically took like some of the coolest features.
It's the 100th episode clip show.
Yeah, they took like the coolest like pocket features of all these different Marvel things and just crammed them together in these like defined countries that border one another.
We just read off some of these titles.
I picked off some of the best ones that I'll get to in a second. So all of the different patches are literal realities that exist across the continents, and each one is ruled by a baron, and that baron is probably someone notable. Furthermore, they are all ruled by, this is a typo in the notes, it said good Emperor Doom, but it is God Emperor Doom. That is, let me be clear, there's nothing good about God Emperor Doom. He has created this world from all the different incursion universes, right along with his right-hand man, Sheriff Strange. That is real. That is his title.
Is it an Old West version of Doctor Strange? Because if not, someone deserves to be fired.
This is 616 Doom and 616 Strange.
Wow.
God Emperor Doom and Sheriff Strange.
Okay.
Like God Emperor Doom, I absolutely see Doctor Doom doing. Like he's wanted to be God Emperor Doom his whole life, but Sheriff Strange is very silly.
It seems a little strange, no pun intended. Like I read it and I kind of laugh, but it's gonna get weirder before it gets better. So,
Matt, there's your chance for a snake in my boots joke, if you got one.
Well, here's where I get back to Andrew's first point about all the Thors. So the enforcers of Battleworld are all the Thors from every last reality. So Doctor Doom, God Emperor Doom, has picked every Thor from every single reality, put them together, and they are called the Thor Corps.
I saw it in the notes. I knew it was coming, and I hate it.
Yeah. So to highlight some of these like universes that exist in Battleworld. So we have exactly.
What if we called it Thor Corps?
Yeah, exactly.
Not unlike the snake in my boot. Somebody thought of the name and then built all of the pieces to get to that part.
So there is literally, if you were to go to the Secret Wars Wikipedia page, don't do it now, do it later when you've got some serious time. They show every one of the like 41 different areas, and then there's some that aren't even listed, and it lists what it's called, who the Baron is, and what universe it comes from or what storyline it comes from, which is pretty cool. But some of the notable ones. So number 1 on the list was Greenland. That is Planet Hulk.
Not like the country.
Not the country.
Straight up Greenland.
Yeah.
We just really like Greenland. It's fine.
Yeah.
Guys, we'll call the one Hulk rules Greenland.
Yeah.
Like the country, but not.
So it is exactly that. It is Planet Hulk, only like on steroids, that it's just Hulks everywhere. You have
Oops, all Hulks.
Yeah, oops, all Hulks. You also get things like the Domain of Apocalypse, which is very obviously taken from Age of Apocalypse. You have Technopolis, which is from a Marvel story called Armor Wars, which I was not familiar with.
It's my favorite Coheed and Cambria album.
So Armor Wars is actually pretty interesting in the sense that it is a storyline where like Tony's his recipe for how he created Iron Man gets out. And like, there's a rival company that also like starts building Iron Man. Like it's basically everything's like
It's the worst
oops,
case
all Iron
scenario
Mans.
of the Willy
Oops,
Wonka book.
oops, all Iron Man.
yeah. You end up with another version of Kunlun, which is off the Master of Kung Fu storyline, which is run by Emperor Shang-Chi, which is kind of neat because that's a name that we now know in the Marvel universe.
The cinematic universe.
Yeah,
Comics readers have always known
yeah.
Shang-Li
Yeah.
or Shang-Chi.
There's Arachnia, which is they're really trying. The Spider-Verse, which was run by Norman Osborn until like the good spider people destroyed or usurped him or whatever.
What's the Spider-Verse in the comic? Isn't that just
I think
New
it's
York?
exactly what you think it is. It is like, so when they put it together, it ends up being like Osborn Towers here and like whatever the lab that Spider-Man,
Okay.
it's all like the known places.
So it's like
But
a big old Marvel museum, basically.
The places that don't really exist in Manhattan
Mhm.
but are canonically in Manhattan in the comics
Yeah.
are probably all in Arachnia.
And this is like the bottle episode of it is the Spider-Verse again. Like this is
Mhm.
into the Spider-Verse happening in one location.
Yeah, I gotcha.
You end up with Doomstot, which is actually run by yeah, I know. It is run by God Emperor Doom, and it's guarded by a version of Galactus.
How can we make sure our readers know he's a Nazi?
Yeah. We want people to realize how bad he is. There's a lot of different areas that are modeled around Civil War, which I don't know if the second Civil War had happened yet, but they might have been building to it. But it's a lot of like conflict between like, this faction of heroes. And then there are places that are the Marvel Zombies universe, the Age of Ultron universe, and the Annihilation Wave universe, which you're probably familiar with like the first two, obviously, but the Annihilation Wave is Annihilus, who is a being who I believe is from the Negative Zone, and the Endless Army that he controls. He is probably another bad guy we will see eventually. He tends to be, I believe, a Fantastic Four villain more than anything.
Yeah.
Is that Mr. Negative?
No.
No.
Oh,
Nope,
I
different.
thought I would have known.
You
a
almost
thing.
tried.
I also don't know what Age of Ultron or Marvel Zombies are, other than the context.
Well,
But we don't need to
you
talk
probably
about
got
it.
it right, though. Like, Marvel Zombies is literally the Marvel Zombies universe. They're all zombies. Age of Ultron is a universe where there's just a bunch of Ultron robots. So, basically,
Boring.
these are like 3 forbidden lands of like zombies, killer robots, and like a faceless army.
And Queens in the middle of everything.
Yeah. Well, and they are all held back by a thing called the Shield. And so we are going to get back to the Shield later because that's obviously very, very important. Furthermore, that was like 7 locations and there's 41 listed on the map.
Dear God.
So
Got it.
to tell you how like completely nuts this all is, it's
Subscribe to our Patreon and
Oh my
listen to
God.
Todd explain each and every one.
I love that 3 of these are classified like they're spoilers.
yeah. I would have to quit my job to do a podcast about
Okay.
all of these
Well,
things.
we're definitely not going to do this, but I'm sorry, King James England.
Yeah. My guess is like that's the Knights of the Round Table, and I think they had like
Okay.
They did a Marvel like 1402 series of comics
Sure.
where
Okay.
like where Tony Stark is like a conquistador.
yeah.
And,
Okay,
like,
we're not doing this. We're not
No,
doing this.
yeah.
Let's
It's
move
not
on.
worth it.
That's probably what that's from.
So that is all the setting. Now to get to like the actual story, right? So Doctor Doom has built this world using powers given to him via Molecule Man, and Doctor Strange is his sheriff. So the life pod of the bad guys, the Cabal life pod. So that's Namor, that's Thanos, that's Maximus the Mad, that's the Maker.
The Cabal Life Pod sounds like an awful podcast.
It is.
I that's a new side business by Gwyneth Paltrow and the Good Corporation.
Oh, gross. Wait till they tell you where you have to put the life pod.
You
So
won't like it. You won't like it.
they all get out and they disappear to do evil things. Doctor Strange, because I refuse to call him Sheriff Strange all the time, he finds the life pod, and wouldn't you know it, Miles Morales stowed away in the life pod. Because Miles Morales is the only pure thing from 1610 that we care about. So at this point, he has Miles Morales, and he's like, cool. Because like Doctor Strange is still a good guy. Doom is very, very bad. Doctor Strange is not. And so Doctor Strange is like, all right, kid, I guess you're with me. And then he orders the Thor Corps to round up the Cabal. So we then have the life pod of all the good people, and they crash land into Battleworld. And that is Reed Richards, Black Panther, Phoenix Force Cyclops, Carol Danvers, Mighty Thor, Star-Lord, Peter Parker. I think that's most everyone. It is found by Sheriff Strange, and there's a new Thor Corps recruit who is just supposed to be effectively like Thor. It's normal looking Thor. And then Miles Morales. So we at this point in time also find out that when all the incursions and like Doom's, patchwork world came together, Doctor Strange created his own secret little island with bits of the 616 universe, and he called it the Isle of Agamotto because we are out of original ideas and names.
You have a week to come up with 41 names for Marvel-based continents.
Yeah.
The first
Go.
10 are real strong, and then after that...
Well, and if anybody's looking for a tie-in to the MCU, in the MCU, the Time Stone that Doctor Strange has is held in the Eye of Agamotto. This is the Isle of Agamotto.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
There's the
that is...
tie-in.
Thank you for that.
This would have been before the movie, yeah?
About a year. So the movie would have been... would have been in development.
Yeah, it would have been getting shot.
It's worth noting too that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like Matt said, the Time Stone is in the Eye of Agamotto. In the Marvel just comic universe, that is not the case. The Eye of Agamotto is a magical item that Doctor Strange has that helps give him powers, just like the Cape of Levitation and whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, we get exposition, and Strange says that you've all been in stasis for 8 years. That's just what's passed from then. And he explains that the multiverse collapsed, and he uses the word God. He says God grabbed bits and pieces to create a battle world. And he shares that God also wiped everyone's memory, so they have no idea of their own past. They don't know what they were prior to this. And at this point, in a very dramatic beat, Reed Richards asks who God is, and Strange tells him that it's Doom. And so it's this, whoa moment. And it, it's kind of driven home at that point that, God Emperor Doom, he is ruling Battleworld with an iron fist. Also, kind of what Kyle had just said earlier, he has claimed Reed Richards' family as his own. So Sue Storm and the kids are now via the power of God Emperor Doom. Sue Doom. They are, gaslit into thinking that he is their family.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a shot of what is it, Franklin Richards running up and hugging Doom and going, "Daddy," and Reed Richards looks on in horror.
Yeah. Sure. It's the pieces are there. So what happens at that point is that so the reason why the Thor recruit is there is really just for this moment where his version of Mjolnir starts lighting up, which is the signal that the Thor Corps has been summoned, which is stupid. And we find out that the Thor Corps have found the cabal of bad people, and there is a battle happening. So Doom catches word that the battle's going poorly because a beaver Thor, some furry animal version of Thor, teleports in and is like, the battle's going really bad. Also, I'm an animal. And then while he's looking through his god powers to watch this battle go poorly, he sees Doctor Strange warp in to help, and also the raft group of the good guys. And so, this includes Reed Richards, and Doom is #triggered. He's like, oh, I killed Reed Richards. This is bad. And so Doom rolls in, and he tells Reed that he is now a god. And he's like, I'm a god, you're not, I'm going to destroy everything. And since the Cabal's also there, Thanos has this cool moment where he says, there exists a difference between playing God and being a god, which is epic shit from Thanos, right?
Are we rooting for the Cabal in a way in this moment?
Yeah, I'm not following what the Cabal's purpose is, but that's okay.
So you are not rooting for Doom. You probably wouldn't root for the Cabal. You're definitely rooting.
Now it's a an enemy of my enemy is my friend situation
and
with the Cabal.
I don't care who the Patriots are playing as long as the Patriots lose. That's where we're at.
the Cabal is the Patriots, and
Doom is the Patriots.
Doom is
Or wait,
the
Doom is the
Patriots.
Patriots.
I forgot I
Yeah.
can't use
There's-
sports metaphors in this podcast.
The Cabal are the
Are the
Cowboys.
Patriots a baseball team?
God damn it. Keep going, Tom.
So there's this moment in this battle that Phoenix Force Cyclops like, hey Doom, I'm coming for you because I've got all this power, and he like handles himself for a while until Doom just takes him by the neck and just snaps his neck.
Whoa.
Which again is
Whoa.
like this is probably one of those moments where they're like, we want to make it clear how much power Doom has. He just like annihilated the Phoenix Force with one hand. At this point, Doctor Strange is like, well, this is all bad, and he scatters all the 616 heroes and the villains to different parts, various parts of the battle world. Just like sends them away, just bloops them out. And at this point, he, there's this exposition between him and Doom, and he says, I did that because they wouldn't kneel to you, and you would have destroyed them. And I'm sure Doom was like, well, yes, they should kneel to me, and I would have destroyed them. And then, because Strange doesn't know when to stop talking, he says, also, you still fear Reed Richards. And Doom just like blows Strange away, just like kills him as
Yeah.
you would. There is this moment. Then they show they end up showing the funeral. It never is told to Doom's fake family what happened to Strange. I think they just tell him that the bad guys killed him or whatever. Because
Sure.
Strange is one of the good guys, and the family's good guys too. So we have a 3 weeks later pass, and Battleworld is just in rebellion. Everything is just like a mess. There is rumor.
Well, it
of
is
this-
called Battle World.
Yeah, I know. They really could have. They could have called it like civilized.
Anything else?
Yeah,
Yeah.
civilized islands. Agent Kirby's Pillow Palace. They could have. So there is rumor going around that there is a being called the Prophet that is organizing an army against Doom. It turns out that the Prophet is Maximus the Mad, or Black Bolt's brother.
Who is part of the Cabal.
Yeah, part of the bad guys.
Can I bring you back a second? So
Sure.
in that huge fight where the Thor Corps is fighting the Cabal, and then Phoenix Force Cyclops is there, and yada yada yada. Doom shows up. What happens to the Cabal?
I think that my understanding is that in that moment they were like kind of what you said, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Like the battle shifted focus from fighting the
two
Cabal.
life pods.
Yeah.
The Cabal life pod and the Illuminati life pod teamed up to fight Doom
Got it.
Yeah.
and the Thor Corps.
Cool.
Yeah, I think they were probably. I can also guess. I did not read through this. I skimmed stuff, but I'm guessing that at that point, the Thor Corps is still under Doom's control. So maybe they were also ultimately trying to fend off the Thor Corps. I don't know. Then the point is supposed to be Doom shows up and Doom's the bad.
Yeah, but I guess my question is, did the Cabal dip, or did they all get destroyed?
Oh no. That Doctor Strange sent them away too.
Okay, cool.
Doctor Strange just blooped everyone out. Like if you are from 616 and also the Maker and also Miles Morales, you out.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
So we are now at the point where kind of that the 3 weeks later, we now find Mr. Fantastic and the Maker have teamed up because they want to take Doom down. And so who better to send on a stealth mission into Doom's castle than the Spider-Men? So
And two Spider-Men.
two Spider-Men.
The Spider's Men.
Yes. So they do that. We also now find Black Panther and Namor. They go to the Isle of Agamotto to see if there's stuff they can use to destroy Doom. They end up finding an Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh man,
Because-
love it when you find those laying around.
Beans.
Yeah, an Infinity Gauntlet that works in Doomstot. So I don't know if that meant that Doctor Strange was able to I know. The Doctor Strange was able to pull gems from other universes, and because of that, it only works in that one location.
It's like when you go to Europe, you have to get a different voltage or different wattage of
that's exactly
extension
how it
of
is.
plugging cords.
I remember something from one of the comics I read where they have, it's the Council of Reeds, and they have therefore an infinite number of infinity gauntlets and stones.
Yeah.
And they're like, we can use the infinity gauntlet on any world, but it's most powerful on the world it's from.
Yeah.
Like,
So maybe that's
hand wave.
Actually, okay, so let's talk about the Council of Reeds real quick. So how is that possible? If all these other universes like are colliding with each other, how is the Council of Reeds possible?
Well, that's just like a thing.
That's like
That's
before
not an answer.
this.
It
It's
kind of
before
is.
this.
Yeah.
They create like a pocket dimension that they all exist in.
It's
not
like-
their own.
It's like
Kirby.
the Delta Sky like lounge. You've never really been there, but you know it's pretty cool. And like he talks about going there sometimes, and you get jealous.
Also, it exists between two planes.
yes.
Get
Shut
the
up.
hell out.
Shut
Oh no.
That was really good. Okay, so we're at this point where when Strange like whooshed everyone away, he dropped Thanos outside of the shield, that giant wall that blocks all the bad stuff.
Mm.
We then find out that the shield is actually a modified version of the Thing, Ben Grimm.
Oh.
He is a giant wall. Yeah.
Oh.
That to get him out of the picture, because you got to remember, Doom like took Reed Richards' family. He
Yeah.
has like banished Ben Grimm to be this wall that keeps all the bad stuff out of all the other places.
Is the wall like the same orange blocky texture that Ben Grimm is the whole like through the whole thing, and then they reveal it and you're like, oh, it was in front of my face the whole time, or is it kind of hidden?
Yeah, I'm pretty
you know?
sure. I'm pretty sure that's what we end up with. I'm trying to pull up the actual picture. He just ends up being massive by the end,
Well, yeah.
but I forget like how they initially. I forget what the first reveal actually looks like, but by the end, he's just like a monstrously large Ben Grimm. Man, I really want to find. Oh yeah, like there's a big old face of him. It's just like a wall with his face sometimes. Like it's it's whatever. Furthermore, to add extra like insult to, well, I guess so. Thanos convinces him to let all the bad stuff out. To say like, hey, we're gonna take down Doom. That's gonna require you letting out the bad stuff. And he's like, no, all right, that works. Also, to parallel this, the son of Battle World is Johnny Storm, who has been like banished above like the plane to just be the sun.
The S-U-N.
Yes,
Sun.
not S-O-N, S-U-N. So,
Gotcha. The star in the sky heating our planet is
Is-
Johnny's son in this continuity. Okay.
Johnny Sun,
Johnny
not
Sun.
Johnny Storm. Johnny
Johnny
Sunstorm.
Storm.
That's stupid.
That's what happens. So we now fast forward that we have a listen, some of these things you just gotta like roll with. So a battle breaks out between the Prophet, which is Maximus the Mad, and some of like Thanos or Doom's barons. And so at that point in this battle, because that's all these like are anymore, just big battles. That's just what's happening. The Thor Corps
It is, again,
Battle
Battle
World.
Planet.
I hate you. the Thor Corps ultimately turn on Doom from encouragement from Jane Foster's Mighty Thor. She like does a rallying cry and says like, "Hey, we're better than this. Let's do this whole thing." Furthermore, Black Panther convinces the Marvel zombies to join him in the fight against Doom because he has the title King of the Dead.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Which-
I'd like to know why that
Yeah.
happened, Todd.
So he at one point in a storyline, because this always happens, he died and he came back. Like that was the thing. And in that time, I guess Shuri like took over. But like that was the whole thing. He died and he came back, and so he is a king and he was dead. He's the king of the dead. I'm sure.
I
there's-
love that it works too, that the Marvel zombies hear that explanation. Like they're like,
Yeah.
well, I guess our hands are tied.
Yeah.
We have to
What
obey
else?
you.
What else are we gonna do?
We as the zombie kingdom are contractually obligated to follow this man because he has said brains.
And so at this point in time, Black Panther also has the Infinity Gauntlet. That's important.
Usually is.
So we now have Ben Grimm as in this giant monster thing rampaging, trying to like do damage to Doom, and that all works until Franklin Richards and Galactus arrive. Galactus is like this flaming head monster protector, and I believe Franklin Richards is able to control him. I think that's how that works. So, this is at that point where it really kind of gets fleshed out that, you know, Doom has controlled and taken over Reed's family. Like it's very, very, very weird. In that moment, since like Ben Grimm knows who Franklin Richards is, like he has affinity for him, he cares about him, he just lets Galactus destroy him. Like as opposed to like trying to fight back and potentially hurt Franklin or whatever else.
Yeah.
There's another big moment where Doom at this point offers Thanos to join him as one of his barons. Thanos says no, and Doom rips his spine out.
Okay.
Just the Mad Titan just gets his spine ripped out of him.
Ripped right out.
Yeah,
Cool.
like the comic panel is literally like Doom punches into him and pulls a spine out. Like it's very Mortal Kombat-esque.
Just one of those panels to be like, yes, Doom is that powerful. Don't forget it.
Yeah. In case you don't remember from when he blew away Doctor Strange, still very powerful. So at this point, Black Panther, Namor, and an army of zombies arrive because there's no wall holding him back anymore. Player 3 has entered the game.
Oh, this is like it's the Marvel's stupid take on like the Riders of Rohan from Lord of the Rings, where all those that ghost army shows up, except it's zombies and stupider.
Yeah. Well, and so we now enter up into a point where Doom, who is powered by the Beyonders, and Black Panther, who is powered by the Infinity Gauntlet, are in a slugfest. Like, this is supposed to be like the big, like this is it. You know, this is the most power you could possibly have up against nearly the most power you could possibly have. And it's during this time that Mr. Fantastic and the Maker are trying to go get Molecule Man because they know or they find out that he is like the key to everything.
Mhm.
In that moment, the Maker betrays Reed and turns him into a monkey.
As bad guys do.
Yeah. Molecule Man, kind of understanding what's going on now, destroys the Maker by slicing him into like chunks. Like it's pretty bad.
That's from Resident Evil. That's a straight up rip from Resident Evil.
So there you go. Well, I think, and unless I know in the 84 run, that's what happens to Claw. So unless I'm getting those completely messed up, anyway, he destroys the Maker.
Oh, it's like it's a callback to that one. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, it's about this point that Doom totally figures out that he is being tricked. That like it's a distraction, the whole like Black Panther thing, and so he instantly teleports to Molecule Man. And in this point, that we now have Molecule Man who depowers Doom because Molecule Man is the secret to everything. He can do whatever.
Wow.
And,
is there is that a thing or is that just like a snap of the fingers? Like
Molecule Man can control molecules. So he just does it.
Wow. That's
and so what you end up having, I'm sure there's this whole like, Reed talks to him and is like, I am here to save everything. Look how bad everything is. And he's like, Ma, you make good sense. And so what we get, though, is an even fight between Doom and Reed Richards, which is like what this has been building to, right? And so the whole time, Doom is like slinging insults at Reed. Yeah, there, I was right. Cool. I thought so. And so there's a whole line. Did you know that one actually can holistically enjoy pizza and it comes in slices? Good.
Fuck that.
That's awful. That's a terrible line.
Yeah, it's bad. Well,
No.
so we get to this cool thing. And so in this battle between Reed Richards and Doom, Doom is like taking all these shots at Reed Richards to be like, you couldn't save your universe. Like, look at this. You failed. Like, you think you're so smart. You couldn't stop anything. I have all this power. Like, you couldn't stop me. And I have everything. And Reed returns with, you were given limitless power and your insecurity chose you to steal my family. Like, you're so jealous of what I've done. Like, that's what you went for. All the options in the universe, and you chose to take my family.
That's a pretty sweet burn.
I put in here,
It is a
you
sick
big
burn.
wiener. He doesn't say you big wiener.
That was my question. I wanted to know if that was a direct quote.
No, Reed is just like, he's just smug about it. And he's like, you had everything before you. You could have had anything. And what you wanted was what I had. like what
You big
I
wiener.
build.
That's a
Yeah.
power move. That's a
Yeah.
bold power move.
Yeah.
And so in this moment, there's a discussion where Doom says that, well, maybe Reed would have done a better job with the Beyonder's power. And there's this whole like conversation and agreement where like, oh yeah, maybe I would have. And then Molecule Man gives that power to Reed.
Because he can?
Because Molecule Man is the linchpin. I told you, he's like top
Jesus.
3 most important in this story.
So weird.
And so at this point, so here's kind of what Kyle had called out at the beginning. So he gets the power to Reed, and that destroys Battleworld. And so the whole thing ends with Mr. and Mrs. Fantastic working with Molecule Man to rebuild the multiverse. So when they rebuild it, there's no Mr. and Mrs. like Fantastic. Because they're outside
They're
of it,
stepped of
building
reality.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
And so back to what Kyle said very early on, this was very timely with if Marvel won't have Fantastic Four, no one needs Fantastic Four. Because now
Yeah.
there's not even 2 out of the 4 to tell the story to. They're just rebuilding universes with Molecule Man. And there's also this really cool point where, and I didn't make mention in here, but when the Spider-Mans, when they make it in, at one point Molecule Man says he's hungry, and Miles Morales pulls a hamburger out of his pocket. Yeah.
All right.
And yeah, and so he's and there's this whole point of like, you've just had that in your pocket, and he's like, yeah, it's what I do. It's fine. It's comics. Weird shit happens. This isn't the weirdest. And and so it's very cool because Molecule Man's like, oh, I owe you one. And so when they rebuild the universes, the universe that he ends up like building with Miles Morales and Peter Parker together, it's the universe that Miles's mother is still alive.
Oh.
Because like she had died
okay.
in his universe.
I thought it was going to be a stupid thing with the hamburger.
No. It's like a
was
very
concerned.
it's a very like rewarding delivery of
Okay,
like
good.
you did this cool thing, like your mother is alive in this reality.
Because you gave me a hamburger.
Here's
you
your
get
mom.
back.
And like again, I can't stress it enough that like way more shit was going on in the background. Like I had made a joke about, how many Ghost Riders are there? Well, there's like a small army of Ghost Riders under the control of Ares, but I don't know if they ever like make it into the main story if they're not just like mentioned somewhere and there's, a run or two about them. So that is the 2015 build up to time that as time runs out, building into Secret Wars. What are your initial hot takes? Do you need me to spill some more hot seed?
Ew.
So okay, I have thoughts about the story, but I see the next section in your notes.
Yes.
And I think that I want you to talk about that, and then I'll give some of my hot takes.
I like that.
I am looking forward to the like pared down version of this story where they kind of close some of the plot holes.
Yeah.
Write out some of the stupider and cheesier things for the MCU. Like,
yep.
Similar to how the comics Civil War was very different than the movie Civil War, and like they shuffled and pared things down to make it fit into a 2.5 hour movie. I'm looking forward to the 2.5 to 5 hour movie version of this, and not the year-long multi-comic arc version of this story, because there is again, we keep saying it, there's a lot of cool stuff here, there's a lot of silly comic stuff here that like didn't need to happen.
I said it earlier kind of like a joke, but it really is like a Marvel museum.
Yeah.
Right? So like it's a celebration.
It's the clip show.
Yeah.
They took the best that they could and what they liked, and they crammed it together. And like I said, if you go through the 41 different listed like pocket universes, it is like the highlight reel. But to what Matt had said, so my next question that I want to like give us is, what does this mean for the future of the MCU? Because again, I don't know how you don't end up ultimately paying off this story, because a number of reasons, but this is the kind of thing that you could also build up to over the next, decade. If they take another, 3 phases to build up, they've already kind of started planting some of the seeds. So, I'll start with like the first point that I had here is that, we now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe have access to all the characters. That is a thing. You could not have told this story with the people we had prior to the acquisition of like the Fox properties and at least the sharing with Sony.
Right.
Namely, the one that I would call the biggest shot on is like Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you like, my early call would be that if you see Doctor Doom show up in the next 4 years, and like he plays in the background for a while, not quite like Thanos, but like a known threat that exists, but like gets to continue existing. This is the kind of thing where like they could play it off as he saw his opportunity and he took it.
For reference, we first saw Thanos 4 years into the MCU.
End of Avengers 1.
Yep.
Yeah. So there you go. So I mean, that timeline kind of lines up if they were to do this 10 years from now.
Question, point of clarity. When do you guys know when was the original Infinity War storyline? Was that like way back in the 90s, 80s or 90s, or was that more recent?
There's been not just one. There was like there was the original, I guess I'd have to look it up because it was definitely 80s and 90s.
Okay.
Because there was the like Infinity War and there's the Infinity Saga and there's the Infinity Guard.
Yeah.
They've
It
touched,
was a 1992.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
what
so
I
there you
just
go.
found. Yeah, 1992.
So-
What a quick Google search of first Infinity War comic got me. That doesn't mean what
Yeah.
Todd is saying isn't relevant,
Yeah.
but that's the first one
So,
titled
like-
Infinity War.
I mean, I think as far as like big contained stories, Secret Wars is probably one of the most notorious, I would imagine. What are the other what other stories like this exist where like, you know, Civil War is a great example, like big mash them up, clash them up stories. Is there anything bigger than Secret Wars?
Bigger? No. Another
Mhm.
one of a similar scope to like Civil War
Mhm.
would be like X-Men versus
Yep.
Avengers.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say House of M.
House of
House of
M.
M.
Yeah.
House of M. It affected everybody.
You could go. So
there's
and I
another
think
big one.
and so
I
you
can't
think like
remember, but-
Planet Hulk into World War Hulk, that was a big one, but they
Yeah.
already did
Yeah.
like parts of Planet Hulk during Ragnarok. Just like
Yeah.
there's speculation that they might just take some of the House of M storyline and modify it into the Scarlet
Right.
Witch, the WandaVision.
Right. Yeah. like,
show.
I could see that happening.
Yeah, but I think Kyle kind of nailed it with the X-Men versus Avengers being a huge
Mhm.
one.
That's one I seeing that'll be the Civil War of if
Yep.
if they
Yeah.
go this route, that's probably where they will build the X-Men to
It's how we get
and, like,
X-Men in.
join the X-Men with the main story at that
Mhm.
point kind of thing, and
Yeah.
it'll be a whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is really cool because that's a very cool story.
And I think the other thing to think about too is that kind of like when Endgame happened, we've kind of done this reset on the universe, right? Like things
Mhm.
have changed dramatically. And this would be a great example too, 10 years from now. Who's going to still want to be on
Yeah.
the ride? And
Yeah.
like how do you then at that point you can, you know, if you bring in a new character, like they could suddenly bring in the Scarlet Spider without fully explaining the Scarlet Spider cuz like he's just here now. You know, they wouldn't need much run up to a lot of new characters if they suddenly started like bringing them together in a new like reformatted world.
Mhm.
You know.
So
Yeah.
all I will say is like I am down for another 10-year buildup. They only made it to this 10-year buildup because they played it very carefully.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
I think that similarly, they've got to play it very carefully if they want to get another 10 years out of this franchise. And I don't know if randomly bringing in
Sure.
the Scarlet Spider is the way to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wanna throw the ball back to Matt because he had kind of like passed it back to me. But like, what's your kind of take? Like, what do you see? Like, how does this kind of interline or interweave with like the MCU? Like, what do you see? You know, I guess coming down the road that might help lead to this.
Right. Yeah. So I think that all of the things you said are true. Like we have the names now, and reading down your notes a little bit, there are other pieces that are being set up. Like we have Monica Rambeau. We know about the Infinity Gauntlets. We know about the Stones. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is coming in. The Eternals are coming in. Like we have all of these pieces that set up for this. But I think one of the things with Battleworld that makes it a little bit different than the Infinity Saga is that Battle World is so much like, I don't want to say convoluted, but there's so many more little pieces and parts to Secret Wars than there were to the Infinity Saga. And I think it's much more difficult to pick one cohesive, like direct storyline to trace through 10 years of movies to get to Secret Wars than there was for the Infinity Saga. And you know, like if anybody can do it, it's going to be Kevin Feige and Marvel and yada yada yada. But I think the most interesting thing is going to be, how do we take the characters we know are coming and that we know we have already, like Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Ant-Man and Wasp. Like, how do we take these characters and use their story to write us into the Secret Wars somehow? And it almost makes me wonder if Secret Wars is more of the 20-year plan. Like, there's going to be a big event at 10 years that is going to lead us to, you know, from year 10 to year 20, everybody's sequel movies happen on Battleworld. Because I think that at some point we have to shift everybody's movies to telling stories on Battleworld to get to the Endgame type movie. Unlike Endgame, where it's pretty easy to say, all right, Thanos is here now and everything is a go. There's a lot of shit that happens on Battleworld before we get to this let's take down Doctor Doom situation.
I'm going to call it. Andrew is not going to see every single Battleworld movie in Matt's franchise that he's planning.
Ding.
That's the only thing I have against that plan, is that, like, you're going to lose a lot of casuals.
It just depends. It just depends on how many flights I take between now and then.
Well, and I think to Matt's point too, that I mean, I could see like one full phase at least just taking place in the Battle World, because you now, like, we're leaning into the weird. Like, we're trying to get weird. Now, we could get real weird if, like, phase 6 or 7 or whatever exclusively happens in a world where everyone is in their own pocket thing that then builds to the big thing at the end. Like, I could see the difference between, like, you know, let's just give some numbers to it. Like, the payoff to Avengers 6, which creates Battle World, you know, now runs for the next 2 years of that phase, 2 or 3 years of phase, you know, leading up through phase 7. The end of phase 7 is the resolution of Battle World. I could see something like that, because I struggle to see them pulling this off in one movie. But I think that it is a storyline that will be told, and they've given us, like I said, so not just having all the properties, but I'm going to posit what I see as a more realistic solution, and you can tell me what if I see a 2-part movie happens on Battleworld. That'll be it for a movie depiction of Battleworld. They won't get into many details. There'll be great Easter eggs for the people who go frame by frame through the movie to find, as they, you know, fights are just going to blow through these different continents of Battleworld, blah, yada, yada. And then if you want to get more Battleworld backstory, there will be a Disney Plus show for you to watch.
Yeah.
But I am calling it. I'm already tired of thinking of the concept of a year's worth of movies that happen, like, in limbo, that, like, where like it could just be the end of, like, they'll have the end of, you know, Thor 5 or whatever, Fantastic Four 3, maybe Doom will create Battleworld, then the next movie is Secret Wars, and they give us, you know, there's a half hour of exposition setting up what Battleworld is, but we're not gonna get into the, like, and this is the Isle of Agamotto, and this is Greenland, but not the Greenland you all know, the Greenland because it's populated by Hulks. Like,
well, and another take could be, so let's play pretend again, that, I mean, if they were to do it in 2 movie style, that movie, you know, 1 ends with that life raft making it to Battleworld, and so that next, you know, phase is movies for those characters that like made it to Battle World, and now you've got kind of the Thor Ragnarok buddy cop kind of like, oh, this is quote Thor's world, but the Hulk's in it with him, and they're trying to work through some stuff. But I would agree. I think that a full phase of all those pockets might get tiresome. But again, they're building up Disney Plus shows to like super matter.
Yeah,
and
I could also see them pulling it off maybe over a 4-movie arc, and having it be like, if it all plays out in a span of 6 to 9 months, and people not getting fatigued.
Yeah.
But like, my big thing is like, you're going to lose.
Yeah, if you're
the
not
more
careful.
the more you put in Battle World, the more casuals are going to show up to the finale and not know what's going on because they didn't want to sit through 8 hours of alternate super heady Marvel movies. I think you're all I'm probably underestimating casual viewers. You two are overestimating casual viewers, and it'll probably be somewhere in the middle. But like, a whole phase of Battle World movies is a lot of Battle World, guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you. And I think that my two-pronged thought of like, why maybe, so, okay, let me rephrase that and say that I think Secret Wars is probably where we're going. And I think we get there eventually if the MCU, rides this like hype train for that long. But I think my sort of two-prong, here's why maybe not. Thing one is what I said earlier, where like, there's so much. I mean, there is so much to build Battle World, because we still have to talk about the multiverse, and we have to build that in somehow. And obviously, we've got Multiverse of Madness on the way, and we had the mention with Earth 616 in Far From Home. But like, we've got to really iron out and explain and solidify how the multiverse works before we can even get into all of the multiverse collapsing. So I think that's thing one of like, how do we get there? And I guess the counter to that is, if you would have told me back in 2009 that like, all right, we're going to do the whole Infinity Saga, and 10 years from now, you're going to get 23 movies that explain it all to you, I'd be like, you're a fucking liar. There's no way that happens.
You're not wrong there. And I will, the way I can easily see you doing a multiverse collapsing story in the time frame is introducing the two concepts at the same time.
Yeah.
So you have Nick Fury be like, where are we going? Another dimension. Why?
It's just
because
that.
Well, and like, it's the end of the movie, whatever. Like, where are we going? Another dimension. Why? The multiverse is collapsing.
Yeah.
So and so will appear in the next Avengers movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got the multiverse set up, the conflict there set up, and you can like start rolling out the puzzle pieces, knowing those two are now in place. You can work from both ends to put the whole story together.
Yeah.
But
so that's like prong one of my thing, and then I guess prong two is like, you have these sort of weird outlier characters in movies where it's like, well, what direction is that going to go, and how is it going to get built in? And the big one that jumps out to me is the Mahershala Ali Blade movie of like, we've already know that that's coming. We know that She-Hulk is coming. We know that Shang-Chi is coming. Where they're names that fit in here, and they have arcs like Ghost Rider does. We're like, yeah, they're in Secret Wars somehow, but they don't necessarily build into the main thing. And obviously, like we said, the Civil War in the movie was way different than the Civil War in the comic books, so they can do whatever they want, and I get that, but I guess I'm just playing devil's advocate in a way, because I love this. This story was rad. I enjoyed all of this, and I'll continue to enjoy all of this. I just think that translating Secret Wars to a cinematic universe is exponentially more difficult than translating the Infinity Saga to a cinematic universe. There's my hot take.
And the Infinity Saga wasn't really like it was about the Infinity Saga, but it really wasn't, right? Because they just introduced all the gems like they are the Dragon Balls. But we only had, I mean, it wasn't like the Infinity Saga. It was really just one movie about it, and then one other movie about the repercussions of that thing.
the Infinity Saga was a stage, or was a backseat to introducing these new characters. And with Civil War, like, I know the Civil War storyline only because of Marvel Ultimate Alliance, but like it is very different from
Yeah.
I assume the Marvel Ultimate Alliance one is more closer to the story, the comic story.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like it's got the spirit of that, but Captain America: Civil War really isn't that story. It's completely different. So like
Right.
you can make a Marvel Secret War in the spirit of this, where maybe you have Doctor Doom getting crazy powers, and he builds a reality that makes everybody come together. But like what Matt said, it can literally be anything, right? Like it can be Doctor Doom just builds Manhattan 2 or New Chicago.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And I think that's I think that would be the call that I think I would see, is that, if this is something that is going to get built up to, which I think it eventually will, there will be some pretty clear tells. And I think one of them is going to be the influence of Doom, like building his power and influence. I think we're going to see, the other is going to be the importance of the multiverse, and Doctor Strange is going to make some sort of claim to Scarlet Witch about how fragile it is. Like there's going to be some big tell at one point of like, you have to be careful when you're dealing with the multiverse. And that's going to be like all right.
So question, point of order. Did Spider-Man Homecoming, did that confirm that there is a multiverse
Far
in
From
the
Home?
MCU?
No.
Far From Home?
No.
Okay, that was all a
No,
smokescreen.
it played with the
As
idea.
I predicted.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
What do you mean you guessed that the villain known for lying and misleading would lie and mislead?
Yeah, but I remember when I made the prediction, you three were all like, it's totally going to be a multiverse thing.
But we
100%
said
multiverse.
we said specifically, it's going to be a lie, but then the end credits is going to be,
Yeah.
actually there is a multiverse.
Yeah, my call was going to be the
that's
end
right.
credits would be like the haha, we fooled you about fooling you.
Yeah.
Which I was wrong about that. We're just going to get that, movies later.
Yeah, that'll be the next one.
My new prediction is that Doctor Doom will be in, like, we'll have the multiverse of madness, and that'll, like, confirm the multiverse, and then Doctor Doom will be, the post-credits will be Doctor Doom in a swivelly chair, turning around and, like, doing the Mr. Burns hands, and, like, just the equivalent of that.
I think they're going to slow walk Doctor Doom into our lives, but that's neither here nor there. This has been Secret Wars. We're going to stop. There's just, we don't have time to get into all the tie-ins and all the other what ifs. But thanks for listening to Debate This Flavor Text. Follow along with the argument on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Debate This Cast, and check out our website at debatethiscast.com. If you like what you hear, please leave us a review so more people can hear our extensive, thorough, nerdy, dumb show. Further, I would ask you, what did we miss, and what is worth further discussion? What else could end up in the MCU, and what tie-ins did we miss? Until next time, I'm Todd Thomas.
I'm Matt. If Greenland is a world of Hulks, is Iceland a world of Bobby Drakes? Cole?
I'm Kyle. I really want to see the Maker on the big screen. Harper.
I'm Andrew. Delta Sky Club is my designated territory on Battle Planet Henderson.
Saying thanks for debating with us, and if you think we're wrong, then you can come fight us behind the swing set, nerds.